Maybe you have wanted to try Leica glass for years, but every time you look at Leica M prices, the idea stops feeling realistic. That is where Leica R changes the conversation. These were Leica's SLR lenses, manual, mechanical, adaptable, and often far more practical than the collector world makes Leica seem. So today we are looking at 5 Leica R lenses I would buy in 2026, lenses that still offer real Leica character without turning photography into a luxury purchase. You are watching Alt Buzz Lenses. Subscribe for classic glass, forgotten systems, and the lenses photographers still talk about. At number 5, we have the Leica Elmarit-R 28mm f/2.8. A 28mm focal length is one of those quiet workhorses that photographers either love immediately or come to love slowly. It is wide enough to include context and environment, close enough to feel connected to what is in front of you, and natural enough that the perspective never calls attention to itself. It does not distort. It does not dramatize. It simply shows you the world as it is, with a slight sense of openness that makes every frame feel like it has room to breathe. The Elmarit-R 28mm f/2.8 is not the rarest Leica R lens. It is not the fastest wide angle the system ever produced. It will not give you the kind of background separation that stops people mid-scroll, but that is not what it is for. This lens was built during Leica's SLR era for photographers who needed a reliable, well-corrected wide angle that could handle travel, street photography, environmental portraits, architecture, landscapes, and the kind of everyday documentary work that never announces itself as art until you look back at the photographs years later. On a modern, mirrorless camera adapted through a straightforward Leica R mount adapter, it still delivers that same quality of experience. The focus ring moves with deliberate mechanical weight. The construction feels solid in a way that modern lenses rarely try to replicate. And the rendering has that quality that is genuinely difficult to describe without sounding like a cliché. A kind of organic, film-era honesty that digital glass tends to optimize away in pursuit of technical perfection. The Elmarit-R 28mm f/2.8 is not the lens you buy to impress Leica collectors. It is the lens you buy when you want to take Leica R outside and actually use it. One honest limitation worth understanding: this is an f/2.8 lens. It was not designed for extreme low-light performance or dramatic subject isolation. Price is also vary significantly depending on version, condition, and cam configuration. The cheapest listing is rarely the smartest purchase in a system where version differences matter as much as they do in Leica R. Choose this lens for its focal length, its handling, and its practical versatility, not for aperture performance. But Leica R was never only about wide-angle travel shooting. The next lens is the one that makes the whole system feel more personal. At number 4, we have the Leica Elmarit-R 35mm f/2.8. There's a reason photographers keep returning to the 35mm focal length across every era, every system, and every format. It is not the most dramatic perspective. It is not the most technically impressive. It is simply the one that feels most like seeing. Wide enough to include the world around your subject. Close enough to feel present in the scene. Natural enough that viewers rarely stop to think about the lens at all. They just look at the photograph. The Elmarit-R 35mm f/2.8 represents the classic one lens on the camera experience that defined how serious SLR photographers worked during Leica R's active years. Street photography, family moments, travel, documentary work, film style, everyday shooting. This is a lens that handles all of it without asking you to think too hard about your framing. You raise the camera, you focus, you shoot. The lens does not try to make the photograph more than it is. It simply helps you record what is actually there with care and with character. On a modern mirrorless body, that quality of experience translates remarkably well. The Elmarit-R 35mm f/2.8 is compact, solidly built, and light enough that it never becomes a burden on a long day of shooting. For photographers adapting vintage glass who want a natural walk-around focal length with film-era optical character. It offers something that autofocus glass at similar price points rarely provides: the feeling that the lens was built with genuine photographic intention. The Elmarit-R 35mm f2.8 is not trying to make every frame look dramatic. It is trying to make everyday photographs feel considered. The fair limitation here mirrors number 5. The f2.8 maximum aperture is not fast. Photographers who need serious low-light performance or dramatic depth of field separation will find faster Leica R options at 35mm, though those lenses carry meaningfully higher prices. This lens earns its place through balance and usability, through the kind of quiet reliability that makes a photographer reach for the same glass again and again without ever needing a reason to justify it. At number 3, we have the Leica Summicron-R 50mm f2. Every lens system has a lens that defines it, not the most extreme option, not the rarest. The one that a photographer could carry every day for years and still trust completely. For Leica R, that lens is the Summicron-R 50mm f2, and it earns that position not through specification drama, but through balance so complete that it becomes almost invisible when you are shooting. The Summicron-R 50mm f2 delivers a classic normal focal length with manual focus precision, practical close focus ability, relative to many Leica M equivalents, and optical performance across a range of shooting situations that is genuinely difficult to fault. Portraits, travel, family photographs, documentary work. This lens handles all of it with a consistency that justifies its place at the center of any Leica R kit. The SLR design also gives it a practical advantage over Leica M equivalents in close focus situations. It focuses closer, it works across more situations, and it does so with a mechanical feel that still rewards deliberate shooting. The Summicron-R 50mm f2 is the kind of lens that makes Leica feel less like a luxury object and more like a serious photographic instrument. The clear limitation: manual focus only, not an f1.4 option, and priced higher than ordinary vintage 50mm lenses from other systems. Measure it as relative Leica value, and measured that way, it becomes one of the more sensible focal lengths in the entire ecosystem. If you enjoy lens stories that go beyond the famous collector pieces and explain what still makes classic glass worth using, subscribe to Alt Buzz Lenses. There is much more on the way, yet the smartest Leica R lens may not be the one with the most dramatic aperture. It may be the one that can do more than viewers expect. At number 2, we have the Leica Macro-Elmarit-R 60mm high f2.8. Most lenses on a list like this get described in terms of what they are. The Macro-Elmarit-R 60mm f2.8 deserves to be described first in terms of what it is not. It is not only a macro lens. It is not a specialized tool you pull out for one specific job and then put away again. It is not a lens that asks you to specialize your shooting to justify owning it. This is where the story gets interesting. At normal shooting distances, the Macro-Elmarit-R 60mm f2.8 works as an everyday normal to short portrait focal length with genuine Leica mechanical quality and optical character. The focus ring moves with that deliberate, precise weight that Leica's SLR era was built on. The construction is solid and considered. The rendering at standard distances has the kind of smooth, controlled quality that feels earned rather than processed. And then you move it closer. Flowers, textures, product details, food, small objects, careful portrait work. At distances where most normal lenses simply stop cooperating, this lens handles all of it with the same mechanical intention. This is exactly where Leica R shows its practical advantage over Leica M most clearly. The SLR system was designed to focus closer and work across more demanding situations. And the Macro-Elmarit-R 60mm f2.8 is the single best expression of that philosophy in the entire system. For a mirrorless photographer adapting vintage glass, this lens solves a problem that most single focal length options cannot. It serves as a normal lens when the day calls for it, and becomes a close focus tool when the subject demands more. One lens, more situations covered. And all of it delivered with the kind of deliberate mechanical experience that modern autofocus glass has largely stopped trying to replicate. The Macro-Elmarit-R 60mm f2.8 is where Leica R starts feeling smarter than the collector world expects. It is not just beautiful glass, it is glass that can actually do more. The honest limitation: this is not a fast portrait lens built for dramatic subject separation at wide apertures. Its appeal is precision, versatility, and manual focus control. Buyers should also verify whether the specific version they are considering requires additional accessories for higher magnification macro work, as this varies across production runs. Know what you are buying before you buy it. And at number 1 is the Leica R lens that proves a portrait lens does not need to be rare, huge, or collector priced to feel genuinely special. At number 1, we have the Leica Elmarit-R 90mm f2.8. Every list like this needs a moment where the choice surprises people. Not because it is obscure, but because it is quietly, consistently right. The Elmarit-R 90mm f2.8 is that lens. It is not the most famous Leica R portrait option. The Summicron-R 90mm and the APO portrait lenses carry more prestige and considerably steeper prices. The Elmarit-R 90mm f2.8 sits to the side of all of that. And that distance from collector mythology is precisely what makes it the smartest choice on this list. A 90mm focal length gives you the classic portrait experience without exaggeration. Natural compression, a comfortable working distance from your subject, the kind of perspective that makes a portrait feel like a portrait rather than a technical demonstration. On a modern mirrorless camera, the focus throw is long and deliberate. The construction is metal and considered, and the aperture ring clicks with the kind of tactile intention that photographers who adapt vintage glass specifically seek out. It is a lens that asks you to slow down, and in slowing down to see better. The Elmarit-R 90mm f2.8 is not the loudest Leica portrait lens. It is the smart one. The lens that still feels like Leica without asking you to buy into the collector game. The fair limitation: f2.8 will not deliver the same extreme shallow depth rendering as faster and more expensive Leica portrait options. Its value lives in balance, handling, and the kind of classic rendering that rewards patient, deliberate work. If you could buy only one Leica R lens today, which focal length would you choose? And if there is a Leica R lens you think deserves to be on this list, defend it in the comments. Leica R lenses are not cheap Leica lenses. They are overlooked Leica lenses, and for photographers who want to use the glass instead of simply admire it, that may be the better deal. Subscribe to Alt Buzz Lenses and keep shooting what matters.